Let's move on now to the Philadelphia Eagles and our NFC East free agency recap. But before we get into that, if you've not already, hit that subscribe button and ring that bell to get notified when we create new content. Ryan and I, we have a goal of getting to 1,000 subscribers by the NFL draft. And as of recording this, when we last checked, we were 42 away. So help us reach our goal. We are almost there. And if you're watching this after we've hit 1,000, still hit that subscribe button and help us reach our new goal of 2,000 subscribers.
41.
41 now. Okay, there we
away.
go. There you go. Someone's listening. How are they listening? Because we're not live. Oh, this is crazy. All right, let's move on. Ryan, the Philadelphia Eagles came just a couple plays away, honestly, of Super Bowl champions on an amazing game. They were just short. And there's a lot of speculation kind of what was going to happen with this team because there was definitely some veteran guys who were contemplating retirement or going elsewhere. And a lot of people were free agents. And so I think that's honestly, let's just get straight into their losses. We didn't realize, honestly, how much they lost. Like we heard like, oh, Javon Hargrave went to the 49ers. Oh, okay. We saw CJ Gardner-Johnson went to the Lions. Now then we're looking at this and it's like, wow, they really actually lost a decent bit.
No, they lost a lot. So I think you look at it, and Javon Hargrave obviously is the big one.
Yeah,
that's the biggest one. And then you go down Andre Dillard, I guess I'll call him a swing tackle for them because he played some left tackle, played some right tackle, but was injured a lot. And then Isaac Seumalo, their starting guard, Chauncey Gardner-Johnson, TJ Edwards, Miles Sanders, Marcus Epps, Kaiser White, Gardner Minshew, Zach Pascal. Those last three, a little bit more rotational players, but that's 9 players that are elsewhere.
All significant starting time as well.
Yeah, significant playing time. I believe the lowest one was Gardner Minshew at 13% of offensive snaps. Even Zach Pascal played 30% of the offensive snaps.
Dillard might be the less
he was only
amount.
He was only 3%. Sorry, he was a little further up the list. But he, in my opinion, is a bigger loss because of the depth that he provided.
Mm-hmm.
So,
yeah, it's interesting to see because with the way that this offense ran, it was definitely through the offensive line running the ball.
Yeah,
and Miles Sanders, as great of a player that he is, I do think that his production is replaceable. However, a lot of that production was thanks to the great offensive line. And also on top of that, too, they lost their offensive coordinator and defensive coordinator as well. Offensive coordinator Shane Steichen.
Well,
it was kind of the mastermind.
When you're that good.
That does happen. And so it's interesting just saying all this stuff. It just brings in questions for next year. I still think that they're the favorite to win the NFC East. I'm not saying that's a doubt, but it's some players now are going to have some opportunity to step up, next man up. You're going to have to replace this. And I think that if they want to make a Super Bowl run, they're going to have to stay healthy, have these older veterans play at the same level. And then if they want to then be competitive over the next couple of years, also they're going to need to draft well and get some good youth talent in there.
Yeah. And lucky for them, they have 2 first-round picks this year. But we're not in the draft segment yet. So let's move on now to kind of what they brought in, and then we can do a little bit of an analysis on how we think it'll play out just with their free agent signings. So starting out with their re-signings, Lane Johnson, Jason Kelce are staying on that offensive line, as well as Darius Slay and James Bradbury are staying in that secondary, and then Fletcher Cox coming back for another year on that defensive line. So big signings, some big re-signings there. Darius Slay, I mean, I'll be honest, they're really good signings. They're still good players. All of those guys are over the age of 30 or older.
Yeah. So, and they're on much shorter deals. Like, what did
Jason Kelce signed a 1-year deal?
Fletcher Cox is a 1-year
deal.
Yeah. Brandon Graham's a 1-year deal. So this is almost kind of like I just watched The Last Dance. Of course, now in that the Bulls kept winning. But in this one, it's like, hey, let's do this one more. Like, let's have one more go at this. That's what this definitely feels like for them here.
Yeah. And then, you have to go all the way down the board. You have Marcus Mariota, the backup. He's a backup quarterback signing. And then Terrell Edmonds, Justin Evans, both safeties. Greedy Williams, cornerback. Rashad Penny to hopefully replace some of that Miles Sanders production. And if he can stay healthy, I actually really like that signing, especially for $1.3 million. That's good value. And then Nicholas Morrow, the linebacker from the Bears. But it's going to be hard to replace TJ Edwards with Nicholas Morrow, right? And so that to me, I think they lost a lot and they didn't really replace it.
Yeah. Well, and so where they're at in the draft, I think that they can definitely fit some needs, like as you're talking about with the linebacker position. With their second pick at 30, I think that's a prime, like Jack Campbell spot right there, or maybe Trenton Simpson, whichever one that they like, and get some youth in there and guys that can contribute from day one and help kind of keep this defense on a high level, because that definitely seems like that's going to be the weakest part that they're going to need to address, because the defensive line is still there. They've drafted well, and I think that they can even go and get someone with their first pick. And there's a guy, I think I've kind of consistently kept mocking him there. But Clyde Cansey, I think, would be great at the 10 pick. Or if they trade back, I still think that they can get him.
Yeah. And so I think that they can do a lot in the draft. And let's kind of go ahead and get into what we think they should do with 10 and 30. And at 10, I do like the Clyde Cansey pick. However, I just think you look at this offensive line and where it is now and where it's going to be next in 2024 and 2025. And you lost your depth pieces. You lost a starting guard. And it's like, okay, to me, that just screams Peter Skoronski, because Peter Skoronski played center, guard, and tackle all at a really high level in college. He's the most technically sound offensive lineman in this draft class. And like, okay, the biggest knock on him is that he has 32.25-inch arms.
Yeah.
He's a 3/4 of an inch away from meeting that 33-inch threshold. And I don't have a ruler on me, but I want to say that's like that far.
Yeah.
And so it's like, are we really going to nitpick the most technically sound offensive lineman because his arms are that shorter than what you think the standard is? So like, I really like Peter Skoronski. He can come in and play day one wherever on this offensive line, whether that's left guard, right tackle, left tackle. If somebody gets hurt, he's a good fill-in. I like that there just as kind of a safety pick. And then at 30, I think you have a lot more flexibility to go shoot, even maybe a Miles Murphy edge rusher or Jack Campbell, like you said, and then you can kind of beef up and try to replace some of what you lost on this defensive side of the ball.
Yeah. It's if they go offensive line, I think it all depends on how they feel about their depth with some of their younger guys. Like they drafted Landon Dickerson a couple years ago. They drafted Cam Jurgens last year. And so, or Cam Jurgens. I'm not trying to pronounce it, but Jurgens, perfect. And so, because it does look like Jason Kelsey's he's probably going to be gone after this year, potentially, or at least within
one more run.
Yeah, one more run is what it seems like. Lane Johnson is also getting up there in age, and there's still some depth there. I guess it just kind of all depends on if you feel like he can come in and help contribute and provide depth and replace a guy within the next year or so, or come in and compete already. So I do think offensive line is on the table for that first one. If it's very interesting. They're in a very interesting place, just because the guys who I think could potentially be there. Do you think they could also go corner maybe? Because like, are they getting older at corner? You think? If a Devin Witherspoon's there?
James Bradbury is 30 and Darius Slay's 32. They both signed multi-year deals. However, if they both complete their contracts there, I'd be very surprised.
Yeah.
So maybe I think if Devin Witherspoon's there, that's a good conversation to have. I just think there's other more pressing needs than drafting a corner at 10. I think I'm not an expert in this, but I think this front office looked at this situation and was like, okay, let's just put a Band-Aid on the secondary for a year. We'll bring in a couple rotational safeties and Terrell Edmonds, Justin Evans, because they lost CJ Gardner-Johnson. Maybe we'll address safety on day 2. But we don't have to worry about the corners. We can beef up the interior and do what got this team to 2 Super Bowls in 5-6 years.
Yeah.
And then if we need to, we can take a corner in the first round of 2024.
Yeah.
So that for me, I think is the philosophy that they're taking with this draft, and I think they're going to look elsewhere. But I wouldn't be like shocked if they did it. So
yeah, if they're going with the best player available mentality, I think there's an argument for Devin Witherspoon.
If in my mock, he's not there. So
yeah, it's true. That's a good point. It's very interesting, kind of on where the Eagles are are at. I think another option, and the final thing I'll say, is a potential trade back option as well. They don't have that many draft picks, and as they know that they're getting older, maybe there are some teams that could want to trade up and go get an offensive lineman as well. And so I think that they can add a couple of picks that way and add more youth to this team.
Yeah, no, there's a lot of different ways they can go. When we did our 7-round mock draft, we actually had them trading back with the Steelers, and I think that would be a really good move. They still got Kalijah Cansey at 17, so I like that move. But let's go ahead and wrap up the Eagles off-season recap there. If you guys haven't already, please go ahead and like and subscribe and leave a comment down below on what you think the Eagles should do in the first round. And other than that, we will see you guys next time.